All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for sticking with it for after lunch. Just want to make sure that these slides, okay, perfect. They work. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm one-handed here. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right. Now I got the technical stuff out of the way. You can tell I'm not a technical person. I am more of a project manager, compliance person. So you're in the right session if you're not looking for something like how to code and get rid of bugs. My daughter was asking the other day, she's like, yeah, she goes, I don't know how much you code or don't code. And I gave her a graphic that said, my life in information security is meetings, and then meetings in blue, it's a little pie chart. So I was like, yeah, I'm the meeting queen. But I'm so glad you're all here. And we are going to definitely have security tea time. One of the things when I first was putting this presentation together, I was so happy to know that I was coming to the Cayman Islands. Knew it was British controlled or British ruled at one point. You drive on the wrong side of the road. I'm sorry, I'm just going to put it out there. Being from the U.S., it's been an adjustment to do that. And so one of the things I thought for sure was that tea would be such a big part of the culture here in the Cayman Islands. And lo and behold, we get off the airplane. We're standing in baggage claim. First ad I see, Starbucks. Starbucks, come on. Well, let's get some tea going. So you're here this afternoon for a secure tea party, but if you're a coffee drinker, you're still welcome. So here's what we're going to go through. We're going to go through the current state of cyber security awareness training. We won't spend long because it's boring. We're going to try and talk about some new strategies. I'm going to give you some actual case studies, things that have worked with me and some of my clients in the past, as well as your next steps. So who am I? I go by the title Security. It was born just a couple of short years ago. I had just started at a very small startup. I was going through the onboarding, through the security training, through all of that, and reading through the mission and values. And it was, what was it? Take chances, don't be afraid, that type of thing. And so day 2, still trying to figure out all of the training that I'm going through. And the teams were getting hacked, where a text message was coming up purporting to be from the CEO, saying, hey, give me a call when you get out of your meeting. I really need to talk to you. And it wasn't obviously the CEO. So my boss comes to me and he said, okay, I need you, this is day 2. I need you to send out an email to everybody, introduce yourself, and tell them not to click the link or not to respond to that text message. So, I had been so many years in corporate, and I was like, okay, but I'm at this startup, and it's, be bold, be brave to lead, savor the ride. So that's where I said, hey, I'm Sue Richards, AKA Security. Sent that out, said, please, here's the text message. Do not pay attention to it. 30 minutes later, my boss comes over and he's like, I'm going to have that email rescinded. I was like, why? He's like, there's a spelling error. I was like, I checked it 3 times. This is day 2. And he's like, you spelled security wrong. It's like, and you could tell he was so embarrassed. Like he's, the board's going to be like, yeah, nice pick, And I said, no, I did that on purpose. And he's like, but why? So I called my husband. He's here, he can attest to it. I called him and I was like, I made a big mistake. I don't know if this culture is ready for me. I had been so often in corporate culture that I was like, ready for a startup and all of that. Before I got home, the marketing department and somebody from the people team had called me and texted me and said, this is brilliant. I love it. Welcome, Security. I get it. So that's kind of where Security was born. I'm a community builder. And I am a consummate tea drinker. And it's nice to be in a place that we actually can put milk in the tea. I'm from the US. I live in the South now. And tea in the South is iced and sweet. And I'm used to milk and a little bit of honey in my tea. So it's nice to be around friends. All right. So current security awareness training. And I just want to level set so we're understanding what I'm talking about. There's the information security training. And that's where we have a little bit of leeway. We have the ability to, talk about ransomware and, don't click the link and business email compromise and things like that. We have leeway as far as making that fun. Compliance training, that's your government regulations. They usually have exact rules about how you can, the format that you can present it in, how many different slides, and how much boring content needs to be in there. So we really can't do much with compliance training. If you are regulated by a government or industry entity, compliance training is here to stay. What we can do is kind of dress around the rest of it. And then there's also fish tests. And I actually don't like the term fish test. I had somebody come to me and say, you know, my stomach clenches every time I'm opening up my inbox because I'm afraid I'm going to get one of your stupid emails and then I'm going to have to take some stupid training. And I was like, you know, when I first got there, we were doing fish tests as 20% off Maui Gym sunglasses. Well, 80% of the people didn't care about that anyway. And so the click rates looked great. What we ended up moving to was an email from your boss saying, you've got a typo in this document, please fix it. And of course, you're going to jump on that a lot faster than you're going to jump on Maui Gym sunglasses. So I was telling her, I said, please don't think of it as a test that you fail. Think of it as weight training. If you upped your weights and you couldn't do all the repetitions that you used to do with a lower weight, you wouldn't consider yourself a failure. You'd look at, well, here's the times that I could actually do this weight. And maybe I can't get 10 repetitions of it, but I can get 8, and I'll get to 10. So I said, think of it that way as more of a weight training or fish training. All right, so why am I here? Well, we've got, why do we do information security training? We've got those regulatory requirements. A lot of times we have to pass annual audits. I do a lot of compliance readiness for customers, and information security, it's usually the same that they've done year 1, year 2. Hey, we passed the audit with it, let's keep going. But we also want to have it evolve. I mean, we need it to evolve as hackers get more sophisticated, as ChatGPT comes in and removes all those spelling errors from those business email compromises, et cetera. And, you know, at the end of the day, we want people to not click the link. But right now, this is what people do when they say, hey, it's time for your annual security awareness training. These are usually the reactions. Am I right? Kind of getting the reaction right now. All right, so because this is a tea party and we need everybody to be social, we're going to do some exercises. And again, it's not anything strenuous, I promise. But I'm going to look for a volunteer. There's a series of exercises. I'm going to look for a volunteer for each one of them. And I want you to all break into different groups, like at least 4 or 5 in groups. And you can kind of do that. I think you're kind of set up that way. So you can kind of, if you find yourself kind of a lone island, join a group. But we need at least 4 or 5 people per group. And like I said, there's going to be a series of these. Now, I just recently went through our local police department in Brentwood, Tennessee, does a Citizens Police Academy. And we had patrol night one of those nights. And it was what you think. We got into the squad car. We had our little police badges on, had an actual officer in the passenger seat. But we got to pull over a perpetrator, and each scenario was different. And so those of us that weren't driving the squad car at that time got to watch in the other scenarios as they played out. And when the police captain asked for volunteers, I was like, yes. And everybody looked at me like, why are you volunteering? And I'm like, they're only going to get harder. So with that in mind, pick a volunteer to do this first exercise. Introduce yourself. Spend a minute just talking to your group, who you are, why you're here, what you're passionate about. Go. Come on, it's a tea party. We social. Hey, Chris.
It's a little hard to hear you, but I think it's just because I'm so close to you.
All right. I hear a lot of laughter, which is good. All right, I'll give you 10 more seconds to wrap that up and we'll go on to the next exercise. All right, we're on to the next one. Next one is going to be even more fun. You ready? All right, so pick a different person, not the same person that was the leader that time. Tell a story. We just had right before we had lunch break, we had a person in here talking about storytelling. So you can use any one of these. You can use a headline. You can use a personal hacking story that you know of, but tell everybody in your group a story and spend another minute or two doing that. All right, we'll give everybody 10 more seconds on this exercise. All right, we're ready for the last exercise. Last exercise, pick another person in your group that's going to lead this one. Demo a tool. Now, I've got my husband out down here at the front. If you need a tool, like if you're just, you need a physical thing, he's got a couple little little squeezy balls and things like that if you actually need like a visual tool. But talk about a tool that you maybe use in your day-to-day, whether that's a software tool or, something that you do. But if you need inspiration, he's got a little goodie bag down here. So just raise your hand. I'll be happy to pass them out. Oh, there's one. And they're goofy tools. They're not serious cyber tools. That's okay. All right. Coming to a close on these exercises. All right. So just to wrap up, give you a couple more seconds. Just to wrap up, so be thinking of when you were the leader, which one of these would you was like you were dreading versus which one of these was a little more comfortable for you. So think back of you as you put yourself in the place of the person who was leading, telling about yourself, the spotlight on you, telling about, a hack or kind of why you do what you do, or using a tool to talk about how you do what you do. Kind of figure out for you personally which one was more comfortable. And then also as an audience member, as the person who was listening to whoever was doing each of these exercises, which one was more entertaining? Which one is going to resonate with you? And you're going to walk out of here going, I didn't think about using that little cat bulldozer as a way to, collect password sticky notes, or something like that. So just be thinking about that because, again, kind of the way the previous speaker right before lunch was talking about, know your audience. Know how you communicate and what's comfortable for you, as well as know what's entertaining and engaging for your audience. Funny story about that same Brentwood Citizens Police Academy, we had one night which was SWAT night, which is Special Weapons and Tactics. Now, these are the elite police officers. These are the ones that work out. They have an extra fitness level. They have extra tests. They have extra training. Pretty intimidating. And they had said that night, they were like, okay, we're going to do a presentation about what the SWAT team does. And then the whole second half of the evening is going to be talking with the SWAT team. And I was like, we're going to get out of here early. Because, who's going to engage? These guys are tall and, and they don't smile because, they're trained to be intimidating. And what they did was they brought a lot of their tools. They brought the lock, what they used to pop the locks, the battering rams. They brought the body armor that they use. They brought the jackets and some of the tactical pants that they use. That room, it was hard to get everybody out. The room was loud. People were laughing. People were engaging. It was just because those tools were there, we were able to try things on. We were able to really connect with what it is that the SWAT team goes through. And it was amazing to me because I was like, I'm going to be so intimidated. There's no way that anybody's going to, we're all just going to kind of sneak out. But it was one of the most fascinating nights because we got to see the tools and how they use them and talk with them firsthand about that. All right, so you can take your seats. The demo part of this is over. But thank you for participating. Thank you so much. All right, so we've got a new approach. First and foremost, security awareness training can't be just once a year. You can't relegate it to once a year or once a month with a phishing test, et cetera. It really has to be built into your culture. And in order to do that, you really need to be present in meetings, incorporate it into your daily life as you go through your organization, as well as your home life. Our kids are very well versed. We have 3 in college right now. They're very well versed in scams, but even they, sometimes will call me and say, hey, is this really, is the university saying they're going to, drop my my user ID and I'm going to lose all my emails and all of my, course history? And I was like, when has the university ever done something overnight? They don't give you 24 hours. They give you a semester. So, but, everybody can be susceptible to that. Find advocates in your business teams. So not IT necessarily, but in your finance team, et cetera. I remember thinking, I was going to find advocates because I had the security awareness training that was mandatory. Everybody had to do it. And then I put some fun optional training in there. And I said to my boss, I was like, I'm going to find out who my advocates are because they're going to go through that optional training. And he's like, nobody's going to do that. It's boring. Nobody is going to do it. And I was like, we'll find it. He was right. Nobody did it. 6 months, nobody did any of the optional training. So what I had to do was I had to go have conversations in the break room with people, have, just that social time, get top of mind on people's meetings. If I knew the marketing team was going to be having their all hands meeting, hey, can I have 5 minutes to just talk about something that is relevant to the business and them? So that was really very helpful to just secure by walking around. You always hear that term, manage by walking around. Well, secure by walking around. Let people know who you are, that you're approachable, they can ask you anything, and make it relevant to your business. There's some case studies that I've got coming up that will kind of help drive that point home, and improve their personal security. A lot of kids, college kids, high school kids, they're pretty secure. They're pretty socially aware. but their parents might not be. And so instead of having to learn from their kids how to be safe, this would be something that, to be able to put in, hey, it's Halloween, personal safety is a big thing. It's holiday season, if you're shipping packages, don't be fooled by scams, et cetera. So, kind of make it relevant to the time of the season. And most of all, make it fun. I mean, put yourself in that position. If you think it's going to be fun, try it out on a team or two. And if they're like, then, try something else. All right, so here's the first use case or case study, an insecure workstation. This can really drive home in a physical sense what we mean by when we say clear desk, clean screen. And so you can set up, if you're in a physical location, you can set up a cubicle or a work desk, an empty work desk. Put it in somewhere that's kind of a high traffic area. Put a password sticky note on the screen or under the keyboard. Put fake documents that say top secret sitting out on there. Put something in the wastebasket that should be shredded, and just put yellow caution tape around it, and then invite people to see, find the faults, find what's wrong with this, because that way you're not picking on them, but use things that you've seen when you are walking around. And so that way it's kind of a nice way to drive that point home. Oh, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to shred that, without calling somebody out and making it a big deal for them. All right, next one. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. Dolly Parton's kind of a big deal. Country music is we're definitely considered Music City. I was having that conversation at lunchtime. And so one of the things I've aspired to do this, I haven't done it yet because I'm here for Halloween, but is to spend, in the US, October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So to do a whole theme the whole month about what would Dolly do. We have Dolly Parton for President t-shirts that they sell in some of the local stores. So, Dolly's an icon. And so I've always had this dream of doing that, having an entire month dedicated to what would Dolly do, and then coming in on Halloween dressed, and I don't think I can do the whole costume, but I can do the wig. I can definitely do the Dolly wig. So, dressing up that way and just, making it fun, making it memorable. If you go online, there's all kinds of national days, just a few here, Global Beatles Day. So if you're a Beatles fan, dress up as one of your favorite Beatles characters. Elvis Week, and these are just more the music venues, but anything that's relevant to your particular industry or your particular culture would be fine. And yes, you will feel like this the first time you do it. Look at me, I'm feeling a little bit out of my element, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get with it, and it's fine, and it humanizes you. It really helps people go, oh, okay, she's really passionate and serious about this. So maybe I should pay attention. And sometimes they're laughing at you, sometimes they're laughing with you, but they're laughing. So go with it. This is a use case that I did for the dental industry. I knew dentists and hygienists, oral hygiene is like huge for them. Well, cyber hygiene is huge for me. So I made it real for them. And so I had a series of these just fun things, don't use the same toothbrush to clean the grout or the toilet that you use to clean your teeth. If it gets compromised, you drop it on the floor, change it. So things like that, but just kind of silly, fun little things to just kind of drive that point home. This we actually put on the company intranet. So we would have, and I put it in my newsletter once a week. So I have a different one once a week and then a recap at the end. But figure out for you and your industry what matters most to your industry and what matters most to your end users, and use that. Right now I'm working with a pharmacy client, so I can very easily adapt this password management to the prescription pads, because they'll get into an awful lot of trouble if somebody's stolen the prescription pad and is filling prescriptions without proper authorization. So it's that same type of due diligence that they do in their daily work that you can kind of tie to cyber hygiene. And then crisis management. And I don't like to use this term lightly, but we saw the stories of things that happen in our industry or in similar industries. But spend if you could get an hour of the board, but just spend some time with the board going through, okay, if what happened to them happened to us, who's going to communicate to legal? Who's going to call the cyber insurance company? And just kind of walk through that scenario so that everybody understands. One of the things about doing risk assessments is to really put your operational risk. I mean, information security risk is an operational risk. And to put that into terms from even working with your enterprise risk manager and just saying, okay, if this goes out, we don't have to worry about trying to optimize our products. We need to worry about paying our bills. And so really kind of bring it home to that piece of it. You can do at a department level, you can do business continuity planning, walk into your finance team. Okay, what if the vendor that we're using to pay our vendors gets compromised? What do we do? Do we have any contingencies? In the US, Change Healthcare handled anywhere, the statistics are anywhere from 1/3 to 1/5 of the US healthcare claims, and they were breached and they were down for a couple of weeks. Other companies, kind of took that on and said, look, we'll start doing the payments for you, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, bring that home to them and worry about your vendors and all of that. And then for your IT teams, use a false positive as a real world what if. What if this wasn't a false positive? What if this really had happened? One company I was working at, we were starting to really get into patch management. And so we were patching systems that had not been patched in a really long time. We were having to do PowerShell commands to do that. Well, our antivirus was like, hey, they're PowerShelling. So we got a call from our MSP saying, it looks like you're compromised. Well, we're not. But then we asked the question, we're like, well, what if that had been? What if that really had been a bad guy and not us patching? What would we have done? And we were able to kind of right size the response because we're like, well, it's a workstation. So in the case of a workstation, we'd break it, we'd overnight them a new one. But if this was the CEO's workstation, what would we do? Probably break it and have his admin assistant work on things because who really gets the work done. But yeah, so use real world scenarios that are happening and kind of use that as fuel for having those discussions. And then this is one that I always use with when I meet with retirees and I said, if you're ever making any of these faces, just call the IT department. And again, this can be something that you can put out on a corporate intranet. You can put it in a newsletter. Just say, if you're ever doing this, please call. Rather you call than you worry or wonder or don't take any action. All right, so just to sum up, we've got some new approaches to security awareness training. And so does anybody have any questions on any of those that I went through? All right, well, you can also host your own tea party. You can make security awareness fun. I can't tell you how many times I tell people I host tea parties, security awareness training disguised as tea parties, and they're like, I want to come, I want to do it, I want to dress in the hat. We just a couple weeks ago had a group of retirees, and it was the largest gathering that they had at this organization, and I still don't feel like I even did enough, and we're probably going to go back quarterly to them, but it was encouraging them to bring their own devices, and we would help put multi-factor authentication on FaceTime for them. Because it was a big deal, and they didn't necessarily feel comfortable asking their children or their grandchildren to do it. We went through some app security and things like that. But when you're hosting your own tea party, you can build security awareness and even into the invitation. Because if somebody gets that and they click the link right away, just go, well, didn't that seem like it was a little odd? I mean, something that's never happened before? Did you think about it? Did you hover over the link? When you came into the tea party, did you tell everybody where you were going? So you can incorporate even some basic security awareness into the whole process and logistics of hosting a tea party. And then really a tea party is, just finding something fun and relevant, incorporating that in. And again, if you're not doing it every, just once a year, if you're not relegating it to that, you can focus on one topic. And so you don't have to overload them with a lot of jargon. You can focus on, hey, let's get your phone app security where it needs to be. Or let's talk about business email compromise. Let's talk about ransomware, things like that. So again, if you want to host your own tea party, Make it social. Also include, if you have a team, hopefully you have a team, even a small team, have them come to the party as well. Ideally, it works with round tables, and then seat your team at different tables. Don't let them all collect in one and just be on their phones. Have them at different tables, and then do some of the workshop exercises that we did. Introduce yourself, demo a tool, get so that your teams are out and about with your other business teams, and they get to know them on a personal level, what they might not otherwise. Making sure you have some good food, some tea, something special, something to make it memorable. Host Ask Me Anything sessions. Our pastor at our church he goes to a local bakery every Monday from 10 a.m. to noon. And it's drop in if you have questions for him. Otherwise, he just enjoys a nice muffin and some iced tea. But have those as a regular occurrence, so that people can feel like they can even bring their home computers and ask questions about it. Should I patch this? I can't tell you how many different people from their own personal computers don't patch because they're so afraid and don't necessarily know that their browsers need to be patched from home. So encourage that. Encourage them to bring a phone. You have a question about your phone, just anything. Doesn't have to be work related, because the stronger they are personally in their security awareness, the stronger they are going to be at the office. And then host office hours, similar to how colleges and university professors have office hours. Just have a regular time that people know, I'm available, and, just stop by. Or like I said, if you're not getting that traction, go out and talk to people during those office hours that you have. And so I know a lot of people think, oh yeah, security awareness is going to be a lot of money, but I really don't think it has to be a lot of money. I think there's an investment of time, but we all have the same amount of time. It's just how we want to spend it. And so the acronyms, T wasn't just a drink here. I consider that tea time, and I think about, how you make time for tea. It's training your people. Making sure that it's consistent, it's not relegated. Don't be that once a year exerciser and think that it's going to resonate and stick with everybody. We have to do security awareness training. We definitely have to do compliance training, but make sure you take that time and be mindful about training them. Engage with your audience, communicate on a regular basis, and again, don't be that. I don't really know who they are. One of the companies that I worked for, my predecessor, my boss had said, he's like, he's worked here for 2 years before he left. He's like, I don't think anybody knew who he was. He's like, I want that to be different for you. And we had different offices across the East Coast. And so I made sure I was very intentional about making sure I walked into each of those offices. And I may have only stayed a half an hour, and yeah, it's kind of a pain to fly up to Boston and spend a half an hour in one location and another half an hour in another location. But it was impactful, because then when I sent that newsletter or when I had that meeting, they knew who I was. And I would just sit in their, in the employee lounge and just wait for people to, it's just my face, you know who I am. And I think it went really, it was very, very impactful for them to do that, or just to see me there. And then, for everything that I've talked about, use what works and leave what doesn't. Not everything is going to work for everybody. But, if you saw one, you're like, never. But, there might be one or two that was impactful for you. And then definitely at the end of the day, have fun, be passionate. I mean, we're in this business not for the glory. We're in it because we have a passion about making people and our systems more secure. And let that show, let that shine out to people. And it will resonate with them, and they will take from that and be serious about it. And if you have any questions, I've got business cards that I can hand out. But this is my website, and I host tea parties and newsletters, and I am happy. As you can tell, I'm a little passionate, a little quirky about security awareness, but it's something that through all the years of IT that I've done, this is something that I really think hits at every level. Every company is now an IT company in one shape or form. In the past, we weren't, but everybody has a dependence on IT, on technology, and it's up to us to be the ones that lead the way in training people. So again, please remember to make time for tea. And we still have time. Yes, we still have time for a couple of questions, if anybody has questions. Yes, you in the front.
What'd you do to your hand?
What'd I do to my hand? All right, address the elephant in the room. Thanks for sticking with me. I fought with a can opener and I lost. So it happened about a week ago. I had surgery just about a week ago. So yeah, I have had a shortened, truncated enjoyment of the Cayman Islands, but I admire this beautiful island and definitely have to come back. So
I have a mic. I have a microphone, so.
Thanks, Sue. Good presentation. Quick question for you, which is, what are some of the best ways that you can think of to reinforce the training? Because oftentimes staff just do the training as a necessary evil to meet some compliance check. Yep, I've done it, so therefore I can get my bonus or whatever.
correct. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you think can help to reinforce it so that it really hits home?
Well, like I said, compliance training, a lot of times they'll say, I know for the US, it's very specific as far as it has to be delivered with this wording in this format. You can't make it fun. You have to just endure it. But I think for that, it's really, the carrot and the stick, make it competitive. If you've got departments and teams that are looking to, there's usually a little rivalry between departments. You can be like, hey, I'm going to give a party to, whoever does this first. And the same with like that insecure workstation. You can send that out. And even if you're a remote, if you're a remote organization, you can take a picture of an insecure workstation, or you can kind of make your own and like have that as your backdrop every time you're in a meeting and go, hey, what's wrong today? And kind of make it fun to engage people and see who notices. There was one just this week. I was talking with somebody, and his Slack message, Slack has a location, and his was Venus, and like 2 days earlier it was Mars. And I was like, what's that about? And he's like, you're the first person that noticed that. He's like, I've been doing that for 6 months. He's like, you're the first person that called that out. But you can make it fun like that. Compliance, it's going to be government run, government regulated. So there's really, there's the incentives to, I gave out little squeezy teeth as an incentive at one of the dental organizations. So whichever office completed it first, we sent 30 of those little squeezy teeth out to them. And then the stick, obviously, which is the name and shame. It's senior management's going to see this, which is more of the corporate, that you have to do. Because, when you're audited, they're going to look for that 100% compliance on your training. But again, and you probably still have to do some sort of, to pass an audit for information security training, you probably still have to do some of those videos, but you can maybe put it out quarterly, or you can tone that down because you're going to be using weekly, monthly, other things that you're doing as part of their daily lives to improve that security. So yeah, from a compliance perspective, a lot of times you're stuck with that, but to raise the level of the culture to be security aware, these are the principles to put into practice. All right, anything else? Oh, there's one back there.
I'm not trained to do this. Thanks for that. I just wanted to ask the phishing tests, how frequently in your opinion, should that be done?
Well, for phishing tests, I think you need to exercise those. So I think monthly it becomes not necessarily, it's not too cumbersome to do a monthly, and that's still enough to be fresh in people's minds. But I also would put together a newsletter. I had a weekly newsletter that I would send out to my teams, to the entire company, same one that was, hey, introduce yourself, So weekly I would send out something. And if there was something that was happening, like the CEO is pretending that, somebody pretending to be the CEO sending text messages, I would do that immediately and send that out as kind of a, hey, let's do another phishing test to make sure that, people are reading my newsletter, reading the emails, seeing the Slack messages. And that's the other thing is, meet people where they are culturally. I'm a horrible Slacker. I don't like Slack. It's unnatural to me, but I forced myself to have a security and InfoSec channel, a security channel in Slack. And I would just post, Shark Week. Okay, well, be careful of ransomware. And so I would just kind of do fun things in there to see, who was going to stumble across it and things like that. So. All right, anything else?
Other questions? I've got one for you if I can. Horror
Sure.
stories.
What?
Horror stories of people, of firms, organizations that just as a learning experience, things that have shocked you.
Oh, my horror stories?
Yeah.
Well, luckily, I did not work at Change Healthcare. I left Change Healthcare before that horrible hack happened. But you see it. I mean, you see it in the industry. One of the organizations that I was working for, one of their third parties was hacked. And it was where all of the health records were held. So it was, not only what luckily we could work offline. So we had that ability, but we had to order supplies because we used that same vendor for ordering dental supplies, and we had to do that all manually. So it all funneled into one person who suddenly became, instead of just being the studio manager, she became the order clerk and had to take all of these paper orders, fax them or email them in, see what the status was. It was no longer an online thing. So, I know from Change Healthcare, I saw the congressional hearings on that. So, I mean, when it gets to that level, it's huge. And like I said, luckily I didn't have to, it wasn't part of that organization when all that happened. Yeah, so for me personally, the worst was a vendor that got compromised that forced us back to a manual process.
We have time for one more question. Someone needs to, one more question from the audience, please. Or we'll pick on someone, shall we?
Yeah. Yeah, whoever was introduced yourself. No, I'm kidding. But, well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And hopefully I've added some fun and levity into your day.